In a world asking the question, what if the movies that got delayed came out on time and they were different? That's the case in my universe. I'm Steven Shinder and you're listening to Delayed Replay, Season 5, airing every other Saturday, unless I change my mind. Hello, welcome to Delayed Replay, that podcast where we talk about movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. Or in this particular case, a movie that got canceled in that other universe and never got made, but got made and came out to some mixed results in this universe. Weird stuff going on with Warner Brothers and DC, especially in that other universe where I guess Coyote versus Acme is being deleted over there after all. It's such a huge mess. But anyway, I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and it's just going to be me on this one. Just quick little context filler. This episode is about the third Wonder Woman movie, Wonder Woman 3 or WW3 or W, but on its side so that it looks like a 3, whatever you want to call it. This is, so in our universe, this was released on International Women's Day, March 8th, and kind of going up against Kung Fu Panda 4, weirdly enough. Kind of strange that they didn't release Kung Fu Panda 4 like a month ago for like, I would think maybe Chinese New Year would be a nice time to release that. But I've also seen a post online about how not everyone can celebrate it. So maybe that was part of it, but like, I don't know. Maybe it's a complicated thing. And also, that would have been around Valentine's Day, and Kung Fu Panda 4, which I haven't seen yet, doesn't seem like a Valentine's Day type movie. But yeah, we'll just have to see what the box office is like for these. So yeah, and this is coming out the day after International Women's Day, so not much time for people to be ready to meet up and record and converse about this. And on top of that, I even apparently in that other universe there is an outage for Facebook and Instagram and Threads that lasted a couple hours or so the other day, but over here it lasted like a week. So certain people who I could only contact through those channels couldn't be reached because of the outage. And I also tried reaching out to my other self from that other universe, but scheduling conflicts. So, but he'll send in something for the end of this. I think he's going to talk about the new Megamind movie as well as the state of DC movies, because there's been all sorts of weird stuff that's been coming out on social media, it seems. So yeah, Wonder Woman 3, and I even tried reaching out to the universe where apparently there's a woman version of me, so I was able to successfully reach out, but she wasn't really interested in coming onto the podcast. Apparently she has like better things to do than get on a movie review podcast. She probably has like a super interesting life. Not to say I don't enjoy doing this podcast, because I really do, but yeah. And maybe it's for the best, because with things going on with DC movies and stuff with their actors and whatnot, and just things around the world being strange, maybe it was good that it's just me for this episode. So this one picks up in a strange way. Right off the bat, like, we're not following Gal Gadot, really. Because right from the start, uh, the character Wonder Woman is split up into several different Wonder Women who are played by the stunt actors or actresses, and the stand-ins who had played Wonder Woman for certain parts in all these different movies and in Peacemaker. So there are like 9 of them, and basically the way it's explained is that these are all Wonder Woman, the one we've been following in the DCEU, but she's been divided into all these different like new versions of her. And it's interesting because this kind of gives credit where credit is due to the stunt, those who do the stunt work and the stand-ins as well, which I thought was a really nice idea, paying tribute to them. And again, like, this is another multiverse movie, unfortunately. They bring in the Greek figure Circe, who I think that's how you pronounce her name, who is able to alter reality or like manipulate reality or something. And so I get the feeling that the higher ups were like reading up on her and were like, oh, she can change reality. Oh, we can incorporate that into this. Which is unfortunate because, with the DCEU ending in lieu of to make way for the reboot, it feels like these last few movies have been trying to wind down and explain the changes. There was it was kind of mixed bag before any of this was happening. In our universe, I think we enjoyed our version of Wonder Woman 1984, the delayed replay version, and that was such a hit that it led to the spin-off, The Amazons. It was going to be a spin-off film, but because of the success of 84, they decided to turn that into a TV series, or I guess it was kind of a TV mini series. Now that so the Amazons picked up after the original Wonder Woman and set in Themyscira, and there are also connections to things that are between 84 and this third movie. But yeah, and funny enough, because it was titled The Amazons, they had no choice but to air it on both Max and Amazon Prime as like part of a deal. Like, hey, you're using our name here, so kind of silly, but it kind of worked. So it was a very interesting show. I think it was definitely worth watching, but now because of the reboot, they're like reshuffling things, and there's going to be a show called Paradise Lost, which will be part of the new DCU, and I think it's supposed to be a prequel to Wonder Woman, if I'm not mistaken. Well, not the DCEU film, but like it takes place before Diana is born, I believe. Yeah, I think that's what's been said so far. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, here in Wonder Woman 3, Circe has like divided her, and there's this other character from Wonder Woman lore who appears. Her name is Nubia, and she's kind of trying to get all these Wonder Women, divided Diana's together so that she can unite them into like one Wonder Woman again. It is said that the only way to do this is by bringing them all together and using a lasso to get them all within the, use the lasso of truth to get all of them in one place. And once it surrounds all of them, it's like they become one again, which is really odd. And throughout this movie, Circe has gotten the lasso of truth, and meanwhile these Wonder Women who've been divided, they start off by fighting off criminals in all of these different places across the globe. Like, kind of figured out for themselves that, hey, if there's more of us, we can take care of more of this. But because they're a divided Wonder Woman, they each are not as strong as they were before as the original Wonder Woman that we followed throughout the DCU. But they each have like their own mini arcs where they find like what they are very skilled at. Like one of them is able to climb trees, so is able to like save not only cats but also people who are stuck in high trees. And there's one who's like a really great pilot, and is able to like get on, like able to fly in a helicopter, and then like this doesn't make much sense really, but she found a way to get into the plane. It kind of felt like they edited out a significant part that would have explained how exactly it happened, but somehow she got in and was able to land it very safely. And yeah, and there's also one who's like good at repairing light bulbs but also uses them as weapons against criminals, like, which it's just really silly, like this thing that happens like throughout the movie. It kind of feels like they just went all in on the goofy aspect of comic books. There's one who's a good swimmer, so is able to save people from drowning, and there's one who's a great sailor. And yeah, they have like all these random skills that they each find out they are proficient at. And I get that it's supposed to be a celebration of women and all the skills that they have, but I'm not so sure that this is the best way to do it, because the unfortunate implications of this is that they are all fractions of someone who has these skills. So it kind of feels like, there's this argument online that, because they're divided, they are less than they would have been. Like, it's this really complicated thing. But yeah, Circe is like messing with them and altering reality. It kind of feels like they're trying to do the Scarlet Witch thing with her. And she even, contributes to the multiverse havoc that's been going on. We've seen this type of stuff going on in the Flash movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Shazam versus Black Adam, and now here. And I'm not really clear on where this fits in the timeline of all those things that are happening. It kind of feels like DC and Warner Brothers are trying too hard to make these huge events that happen as a way of explaining, there really does indeed need to be a reboot really hard, like, because of all this, like all of this, like it's way too much, so it justifies a reboot. And I'm here like, well, out of these films that have come out recently, Blue Beetle is the only one that doesn't try any of that, and it's all the better for it. Like, it's the best out of those. And I guess you can make the argument that Blue Beetle is probably going to be part of the new DCU, but it could also kind of fit in the DCEU. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they didn't need to try this hard to explain everything. And I kind of feel like Patty Jenkins's energy was more focused on Rogue Squadron, the Star Wars movie, in light of all these changes with DC. And it kind of feels like, I don't know, like how many of these ideas are hers and how many were the studio being like, we have to do this thing instead. But it's really unfortunate because the way that this plot escalates is that these Wonder Women, these fractions of Diana, they end up fighting against each other. And it's kind of like this mini war that they have, which we really do not need right now. It's, people want escapism, and also like there's been way too much like depressing stuff in some DC movies, like Batman versus Superman. Like, that was not fun at all, and so it's really annoying to see this happen. So Another wrinkle that's thrown in here, which I keep going on tangents and trying to get back to this point, is that due to the changes in reality, we also get to see other Wonder Women. So we see Linda Hamilton from that one TV pilot. You know, she was in the Planet of the Apes movies, but was also in sorry, not Linda Hamilton, Linda Harrison. She was in the 1967 Wonder Woman TV pilot or screen test or whatever. And we also have the Wonder Woman from the 1974 TV movie that was supposed to lead to the series, but it didn't do so well, so they reshuffled. And yeah, Kathy Lee Crosby. I think there was actually an issue, if I remember correctly, when I read the Wonder Woman 77 comic series. You know, it delves into the world of the Linda Carter Wonder Woman series, where I think she encounters this 74 version in a dream world or an alternate reality or something. But here it's unambiguously her, and like she's wearing the outfit that's like, it's got more blue on it, and yeah, I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it's unusual from what you'd expect from Wonder Woman. And of course we get the Linda Carter Wonder Woman, but she's older and in a much more modern update of her outfit. And you know, all of these are older, and Linda Carter even plays Asteria, and yeah, I don't know why she was allowed to play two roles in this. But also, here's a fun fact, something I learned, or maybe learned a while ago, then forgot, then learned again. Patty Jenkins and Linda Carter have the same birthday, like different years, but same birthday, so that's kind of interesting. They all appear briefly, like to give these younger, divided Wonder Women some much needed advice about how they all need to be one. And so they get advice from them and also get help from Nubia. And I feel like they were trying to go for, you know, like the Spider-Man No Way Home, and I guess the Spider-Verse, I should say, like Into the Spider-Verse. I feel like as great as Into the Spider-Verse was, I feel like it's had a negative effect on some of these later comic book movies where they go all in on the multiverse but don't really execute it in the best way. And so the advice, the words of wisdom, or the words of wisdom from Wonder Woman are done like in a, it comes from a good place, but it's hard for me not to see the artificiality in, you know, like obviously like they're not all filming in the same location. And when we've had like so many multiverse movies within just the last couple of years over here, it's hard to feel as invested and impressed in these sorts of cameo appearances. Now, I appreciate that these actresses gave their time, and it's great that they're honored here, but I don't know if this was the best way to do a third Wonder Woman movie. But anyway, eventually the divided Dianas go up against Circe, and like they team up against her, and this happens at some sort of base that has a giant power battery that is supposed to electrocute people across the world or something. It's like this really absurd like device that is supposed to be a huge threat to the world or a sector of the world or something. And I also feel like Circe's powers are not defined very well. So it's like she's able to manipulate reality, but yet somehow these Wonder Women are eventually able to overtake her and like they get the lasso back, but instead of becoming one right away, they decide, you know what, let's be ourselves for a bit longer and show that can we are strong even when we are in these forms, like, you know, they're strong even when apart from each other, I guess, but still united in a way. um and so like they showcase like this sequence where they're fighting Circe and her uh hench people, like her army basically. And this felt like really cluttered, and way too much time was spent on this. Like at first, like, you know, there was these cool moments where they're well choreographed, but I could feel it dragging after a while. So yeah, and eventually they do defeat Circe. Like they even fight a Batwoman played by Lauren Cohen. Apparently Circe grabbed her from a timeline like where Bruce Wayne died, and then used her powers to manipulate her into fighting them. But um, eventually, like they're able to defeat Circe, and they realize, oh, the universe is changing, and that the DCEU is about to sort of end. And I guess this is supposed to be during what happens at the end of uh, Shazam versus Black Adam. And like, because there's similar lighting and imagery, but yeah, I don't know. Like, this feels, you know, like they stand together and are like, no matter what happens, Wonder Woman will persist. And we kind of see that they are becoming one again, but we only see a silhouette. We don't see the final result. And then it fades out, goes to credits, and it says Wonder Woman will return. And this was very confusing for people because we know that there's a reboot happening, but I could see people thinking, oh, they're still gonna use the same actress, but I don't think they are. Like, things are really confusing with DC and whatnot. It's really hard to articulate. But yeah, that's a wrap on Wonder Woman 3. And this was a really short movie. You could tell they were, you know, Warner Brothers or whoever were like cutting corners on this one, which really did a disservice to the story that could have been told. Like, this felt like it was an hour and a half, maybe a little more than that, which, yeah, I don't know. I just hope they do better with this next time around, whenever that may be. What's kind of fun, though, is during the end credits, there's a prog metal version of the 70s Wonder Woman TV show theme. So it's like, Wonder Woman. So that was kind of fun. I also forgot to mention Adrian Paliki's version of Wonder Woman also appears, but like in a more sensible fashion. Like, because from what people know about the TV pilot from the 2000s that she was in, like, there is some cringe stuff, but here it feels like they updated her to modern sensibilities, which was really good to see. So yeah, there were some wins in this, but not really enough. And, you know, I blame that on the stuff happening with DC and all that seeping into the film. So hopefully with the new DCU, it'll feel like a nice, like, good reset, a good foundation, and things will be much better, hopefully. Yeah, like and the cinematography, like, there were some really good shots. Like, there was a rainy scene where the rain really felt real. I liked when they looked up at the constellations and this fight that took place at construction site, but yeah, overall it feels half baked, really. Anyway, it had good intentions, um, but yeah, I don't really know what the best way to have made this movie would have been, but definitely in a way where it could have been standalone, like the first Wonder Woman movie, and like use that as the blueprint. Because, like, I guess the second one, yeah, that did kind of have continuing threads, so I don't know if that's did quite as well, but yeah, like I didn't think this was quite as bad as Black Adam versus Shazam, so I'm gonna give this 5 out of 10 lassos. There were definitely some moments that I thought had heart and that I liked, but there were also some really messy moments. And yeah, I'm just ready for the DCU to start when Superman Legacy comes out. And uh, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Just very frustrated with the way things with DC movies have been, and it feels like even when things are winding down, we still have to deal with the fallout of some stuff. So yeah, that's it for me on this. So first, before I switch over to the other Steven from that other universe, I just want to mention where you can find me. I'm at Steven Shinder on Instagram, Threads, X, Twitter, whatever. Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. StevenShinder.com is my author website, and you can find my standalones and stepping stones novels on Amazon. And I'm also on Letterboxd and Goodreads. So, if you want to email this podcast, email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on sailing. Do you sail? I don't know. Also on a podcast slash vlog with my dad called Yesshift, where we talk about Yes, the band, and prog rock. We actually recently had Gentle Giant band members John Weathers and Derek Schulman on Drum Talk TV and Yesshift. So, yeah, lots of stuff going on with the Drum Talk TV as well, so check that out. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. So without further delay, here's the other Steven. Hey everyone, this is Steven from that other universe, and these are my 2 cents on recent discourse that's been said about DC movies, with the Snyderverse and DCEU having ended and the new DCEU coming up. So this past week, I think it was this past week, there was the unveiling of a photo of what the Superman suit, specifically the part that shows like the Superman symbol on the chest of the suit, like how that looks. And apparently Superman Legacy is now retitled Superman, which I guess I'm fine with. Superman Legacy like kind of feels like it implies that it's a sequel to a bunch of other things in my head, so I guess I can see why it'd be just called Superman. So I thought this was a really cool photo. I saw a funny tweet saying that the snow on the costume is a reference to snow from DC, which in DC Comics is a natural occurrence where in weather where like water becomes frozen or something. It was something goofy like that, and I'm like, I love this. But of course you get the a certain sect of fans coming out of the woodwork and basically poo-pooing all over people's enjoyment of the new suit and saying it looks terrible compared to the Man of Steel suit, and saying, oh, it doesn't have the Kryptonian details or whatever. And let me tell you something. I really like the idea of the Superman suit being made by his Earth mom, Martha Kent, and maybe somewhere along the way, Kryptonian bits will be added, like to reflect that heritage. So I think something like that would be a good compromise. But also, the Man of Steel suit, as it appears in the film, it looks, it's not colorful enough. I'm sorry, it just isn't. Like, a Superman suit needs to have vibrant color. It can't just be dull and like lacking like that, okay? I'm sorry, like a Superman suit, like, it needs to bring joy and hope and whatnot, okay? And as if that wasn't enough, like, I've also seen things trickle into my feed of clips of an interview Zack Snyder did on the podcast, and to be fair, I haven't watched or listened to the full interview, and I don't intend to, because I'm not a follower of that podcast, and I just don't want to. But so people might say, oh, you're lacking context for this part, but to be fair, like, the clips I've seen that have trickled into my feed, like the comments from Zach, have been kind of cringe, really. Like when he's talking about Watchmen and Batman versus Superman, and like the way his wording makes me think that showing a Batman who kills, like, it almost sounds like he did that just because people were against it. And, maybe he did want to do a deconstruction of that, but I still feel like it wasn't done the best way. Like, and frankly, I don't think we needed to see a deconstructed Batman, like a Batman who kills. Like, that's not how you start a mainline DC film universe. Like, it's really strange that the Snyderverse, I guess you want to call it, like, it sort of felt like Elseworlds, and maybe that was the intention, but it didn't have the Elseworlds label. It was meant to be the main flagship of DC movies, kind of like the mainline DC comics. So it's real weird that was the main line, and yet we've had Joker and the Batman, and those are going to be labeled Elseworlds. Joker makes sense to label it Elseworlds because it's very different, but the Batman feels more like what people would expect from a traditional Batman, or what they prefer Batman to be like, and there's not that much that feels Elseworldsy about it, other than maybe how Riddler and Joker are in that movie in my universe. But anyway, I was having this thought. If they really wanted to include a Batman who kills, they could have just waited until the Flash movie, when they could have, start off, Batman versus Superman, have a Bruce Wayne who's closer to how people perceive what the positive aspects of Bruce Wayne and Batman, and make the film not a stupid premise where they have to fight each other. Like, introduce Batman in a good way, Bruce Wayne, and then later down the line, it would make that movie with Batman and Superman more of a critical success, and maybe Justice League would have turned out well and had become a theatrical smash hit. And then later down the line, you have the Flash movie, and there would have been more hype if Justice League had been a success. And you'd have the Flashpoint story where, Flash changes history, and then that causes a ripple effect where Bruce Wayne as a kid is the one who dies in the alley, and Thomas Wayne, or even Martha Wayne, becomes the Batman in this revised timeline, and it's a Batman who kills without like qualms because they lost their son, which is, with Bruce Wayne, he lost his parents, so he suffered but was able to develop his code. Whereas when you lose a child, it's really hard to really come back from that. So they could have waited until then to explore a Batman who kills, like in live action. So yeah, and of course there still would have been like, maybe there still might have been some stumbles along the way that could have led to this DCEU thing ending anyway, but it's just frustrating to look back at things in hindsight, and I'm really tired of the discourse that I'm seeing on the internet. I enjoyed Zack Snyder's Justice League, but the more I think about it, the more I'm not sure I would have enjoyed the follow-ups to it. And, Superman, like the new Superman movie is happening, and people just need to move on and stop arguing. I might have said this before that, 10, 11 years ago when I was thinking, like, how would I develop a Batman series? I think I would start, he'd use a gun early in his career against the Mad Monk, who's a vampire, and Hugo Strange's Monster Men, but then he would regret using the gun and never use that to kill again, because that'd be early in his career. So I'm not a fan of these things where he's, like, using it later in his career. Like, it's just not what I like to see in Batman. Matt Reeves is the Batman is the direction I'm very interested in. And I guess we'll see what happens in the Brave and the Bold DCU version, I guess it's called. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the DC discourse. It's really annoying, and people should just move on, embrace the new DCU. And yes, I am aware that Batman has killed in the Burton films, for example. But times have changed. The world is bleak, and I need a Batman and a Superman who do their best to try not to kill anyone. And for that matter, whenever Wonder Woman is in the new DCU, like, have her be a good role model as well. They had a good thing going with the first Wonder Woman movie, and then 1984, she does something that makes her a bad role model, because of the whole body possession thing going on with Chris Pine's character. But yeah, overall, I just hope that the new DCU is that there's more hope there, like that's all I'm asking for, really. Anyway, switching gears, I watched the new Megamind movie. Yeah, Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. And this is something I didn't know about until I saw a headline where it was like the writers or the director, I don't know who it was, but they said they want a Megamind 3 but have it released theatrically or something. And so it turns out this second movie came out on Peacock, like the second feature film, and really what it is it's a generic TV episode stretched out to almost an hour and a half. I can't remember the runtime. Maybe it was an hour and 20 or something, but yeah, it felt generic. It felt kind of like the Monsters vs. Aliens TV show, another DreamWorks property that switch from film to television, and unsurprisingly this was actually the pilot movie for the TV show that also dropped on Peacock called Megamind Rules. And from the few episodes I've seen, the episodes are pretty blink and you'll miss it. Like, if you're doing something and you have it on, like, you'll look at the screen, then look at what you're doing, and then look up, and suddenly, like, not much has happened, or everything has happened, and it's over. So the film I'd give, the more I think about it, like a 4 out of 10 Minions. They also changed Minion's name for obvious reasons. They named him Old Chum, if I remember correctly. So yeah, and the TV series is not better really. It's pretty forgettable stuff. So yeah, it's pretty unfortunate because the original Megamind movie had a lot of heart. It felt like a good Superman movie, funny enough, in a way. So yeah, that's pretty much my take. Also, I watched a medieval fantasy movie that just came out on Netflix called Damsel, starring Millie Bobby Brown. And I've had this feeling that live action medieval fantasy, for the most part, unless it's Lord of the Rings or something, or Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, or Princess Bride, like there are some cases here and there for things I do like, but in general, whenever these things come out, especially if they're from Netflix, I feel like it's probably not gonna be for me. But I went ahead and watched this, and I was actually surprised how invested I was. I would say do not watch the trailer. I did not watch the trailer, but I've heard that it kind of gives away the premise, which you could probably assume the premise as you watch, but I think it's nice to see it unfold as it plays out. And there are certain things here and there where I feel like things could have been done or conveyed better, but overall, it was somewhat enjoyable. I especially liked the dragon design in this, so that's pretty much all I'll say. I'd give it a 7 or maybe 7.5 out of 10 dragons. Yeah, I feel like it had suspenseful moments. A couple things were kind of predictable, but it was somewhat enjoyable, so maybe you'll like it. Anyway, this podcast will be back again in 2 weeks, so without further delay, have a good day.